Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print 3D channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to use the latest version of Cura to update the Marlin firmware on our gMax 1.5 XT Plus, so stick around.
A huge thanks to the following people for supporting the channel.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print 3D channel. I know it's been quite some time since I posted a video, so I wanted to do something a little bit different. Today we're going to use the latest version of Cura to update our Marlin firmware in the gMax 1.5 XT Plus. Now I've been wanting to update my Marlin firmware for quite some time, but I'm not super comfortable with the Arduino interface and I didn't want to try anything new just yet. And recently the guys over at gCreate posted on their forum, which is free to join, and I'll put that link down in the description, a really cool step-by-step walkthrough how you can use the latest version of Cura to update your Marlin firmware on the entire line of gCreate printers. Now, Gordon and the team over at gCreate have created their own flavor of Marlin to include some really cool things called gCreate tools, and we'll talk about that once we get everything installed and updated. But the first thing we need to do is head over to the Mac and download all the software that we need to do this firmware update properly. So let's head over there and get started.
Okay, so we're over here at the gCreate forum, which is free to join, like I said, and I'll put that link down in the description. And under the gCreate Tutorials and Learning Center, under Software Installation, is installing Marlin 1.1.8 on the gMax. And it's a very thorough instructions, and it looks very easy. And there are a few parts that we need to get. We do need to get the Marlin firmware itself, which we can download here. And we also need to get a couple other things. And as you can see here, there's some small changes that we need to make in our slicing software, plus a list of all the new features, which we'll talk about later. So once we're done with that, we need to get our Ultimaker software, which is really easy to find, and I'll put that link down in the description. It's a free download from Ultimaker. You just have to click there to download it. And of course, we need the Cura 3.1 gMax configuration files, which are compatible with the latest version of Cura that we'll use to install the printer profile in our gMax, and then we can install our Marlin. So let's go ahead and start our downloads and get those out of the way. And like I said, these are all free downloads. You don't have to pay for anything for these. And the gCreate forum is free to join. So once we have everything downloaded, and especially under this particular area here, there's two sections. There's download Cura and the download the gMax config files, which will take you to another page. So once we click on this will take us to another page in the forum where we can actually download those latest updated config files. So once we have everything downloaded, we'll be able to go to the desktop and we'll be able to start our Marlin installation. And like I said, this looks like a very straightforward installation. So let's go ahead and drag out our three downloads that we just did to the desktop so we can unzip them and unpack them and get them ready to install. So we have our three different things. We have our disk image from Ultimaker, and we have two zip files from the gMax forum, for the gCreate forum, I should say. So let's go ahead and unzip these, and we'll go ahead and open up the disk image onto our desktop here so we can install the Ultimaker Cura software, and it's the latest version for the Mac. And basically you just have to drop the Ultimaker Cura icon into this shortcut, which automatically puts that into your applications folder. So once we're done with that, it's a very quick installation. As you can see, we can get rid of these items that we don't need. These zip files can go. We can go ahead and close out of this. We can eject the disk image that was opened up, and we can move this off the desktop. Now we have our two pieces that we're going to use for our Marlin update. We have our configuration files, and we have our Marlin files. And this even has our Marlin source code, and there is a README in here that has all the information of the newest version of Marlin that the guys over at gCreate have adjusted for the gCreate line of printers. And you can see here there's a nice full list of all the new features that are included, and there's even some bug fixes and changes. There's a lot of things that don't apply to my particular printer, but there are a lot of things that do. And of course we do have to make a couple of changes in our slicing software, but we'll get to that. So we can go ahead and get rid of those two menus, and let's head over to the installation instructions now, and let's go ahead and follow this through. So the first thing we really need to do, now that we've downloaded our Cura slicing software, is we need to install those Cura profiles. And the way to do that is we need to copy over some source code files into some folders within the actual application itself. And on the Mac, this is a very simple process. All you have to do is right-click on the application icon, show package contents, and it tells you where to weave down. So let's go ahead and go to our applications folder, and let's go to Ultimaker Cura. We'll right-click, we'll go show package contents, and then we'll get our window situated because we're going to do some copying here of some contents. So what we want to do is we want to twirl our way down or open Windows down until we get to the final resources menu or resources window, which is here. And that'll have all the folders that we need to copy files from gMax, from gCreate, into these folders so you have all the proper configuration files set up for your gMax printer. So the first thing we'll do is copy over the mesh, which I believe is just the ghost image you can see when you're inside of Cura. And there's obviously some settings here. I don't really know much about Cura, but it's very cool that Gordon and the team included all this stuff that all you have to do is drag these into the folders, and you'll be able to have the gMax line of printers as a basic setup in Cura, like all the other factory installed printers, which is really nice because they did that with Simplify 3D. And with the new version of Cura, I think Gordon really wanted to show that his printers are compatible with two of the most popular slicers. So once we've got that done, now we can go into Cura and we can add the printer, and you can see once we have it add, it'll be down here in the bottom of the list of custom printers, and we'll be able to select the one we want. And then there's some stuff here about actually tuning Cura to work with the gMax printers. So what we need to do next is connect our printer. That way we have it's up and running and the gMax printer is off. So we'll go ahead and connect the USB cable, and we'll make sure that we are connected to the printer. That way when we start up Cura, we'll be ready to go. And we're using USB power to power up the printer, so that's very cool too. So you can actually control the gMax printer. So now that we have the gMax printer powered up via the USB cable, we can start proceeding to do the printer install to make sure the printer is installed in Cura, and we can do our firmware upgrade. So let's go ahead and launch Cura from our desktop shortcut. This will take a moment to launch. And as you can see, it's loading up all the machines and the profiles that are included with Cura, which now include all the stuff that we just copied over. So all we should be able to do is go over into the settings menu and add that printer. So as you can see, Cura looks pretty basic. There is this thing about collecting data, which I'll probably allow later so they can do some testing. But the first thing we need to do is make sure we add the gMax printer to it. And you can see here it's in the other list. Let's just scroll on down. And there's our gMax 1.5 Plus, and that's the printer we're using. We don't have the dual extruders, so we just have to add this printer. And once we do, it'll put all the settings for the gMax printer into our Cura settings, and you'll see the change. And there's the new ghost image for where our gMax print size and all the different basic settings that the guys at gCreate have already set up. So the next thing we need to do is go over to Manage Printers, and as you can see, it's the gMax 1.5 Plus. And as you can see, we are connected via the USB, and it is waiting for a print job, so we could be printing tethered, but we want to upgrade the firmware. And as you can see, there's a little bit of information about firmware. And if we go to the instructions here, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do, which is upgrade custom firmware. And in the desktop folder provided by gMax, there's the Marlin source code, plus there's all these hex files. Now these hex files contain all the information and the actual installation part of the firmware update that we're going to do. And as you can see, the team over at gCreate provided us with either dual JHEAD or E3D or single JHEAD and E3D. And we'll just make sure that we're attaching the proper hex file, which is going to be the single E3D, and that's the one we want. So if we just select this file here, the single E3D, and we hit open, this is going to start the firmware update on the gMax 1.5 XT Plus. So this will take a little bit of time, and while it's installing, I'll go ahead and make sure that I get a camera over there so you guys can see once it's running off the desktop of the old version of Marlin on the gMax printer, and then it'll shut off and reboot, and you'll be able to see the new version of Marlin 1.1.8 open and launch for the very first time. So this will be something really cool. So let's get that camera up here, and I'll put it in the bottom corner so you guys can see it. All right, so there we go. There's the previous version. It's rebooting, and there it is. That was pretty quick, actually. That didn't take very long at all. And it is Marlin 1.1.8, and there's Marlin information there. So we can go ahead and close out of these windows because we are done doing our Marlin firmware update, and it's been upgraded to the latest version. We can go ahead and close out of here, and that's it. It's all done. So if we head over to the gMax and we power it back on again, you'll be able to see it boot up. Marlin 1.1.8, custom made for the gCreate gMax printers. There's the Marlin information. And if we take a look at some of the new menu items that are available here, we'll go through and check out the gMax tools. And here we can do our bed leveling, our purging, we can remove filament. There's the raise, so you can be able to purge your filament or just raise it out of the way really quick. Go back to the main menu. We'll go over some of the other new menu items or the new way everything is situated here in the new version of Marlin. Some of these may look familiar, but there's that BL Touch self-test, which is the new integration of the BL Touch into this flavor of Marlin provided by gCreate. Under the control menu, there's a lot of new menus, but specifically right there at the bottom is the new BL Touch menu with a lot of new features. That's very cool. This is one of the things I've been looking forward to. I've never had any problems with my BL Touch, but it's nice to see a new menu that's specifically designed in the control software just for the BL Touch. Some of these menus are pretty much the same, they've just been improved, and as you can see it moves a lot quicker. I do like the different way it highlights each of the selections instead of the whole bar coloring. It gives you just a nice easy menu selection. A lot of the new menu item selections here are a little bit easier to get to. This looks a little bit different from the original temperature settings, but there's a lot of new configurations that you can do that are a little bit more precise in this particular version of Marlin. They've done an amazing job with this update, and of course the guys over at gCreate, they did a really good job of customizing this particular version for the gMax printers, for the gCreate line of printers. And one of the things I really want to do is I want to run that 36-point bed leveling check. So let's go ahead and run that, and I'll set up the camera so you can see it, and I'll hit the time lapse so you guys can, you won't have to sit through the whole thing. But I've been wanting to try this because this is very cool. Basically what happens, it's going to center itself on the print bed, and then it's going to do 36 points checking on my sanded acrylic bed, and then it's going to have the ability to store that setting so I don't have to run the BL Touch. Now if I unplug it, obviously it'll clear those settings, but it has the ability to store it, and that's very cool. That's a very cool improvement. And as you can see, it's going to slowly go around and check 36 points, which is compared to the previous 9, is going to get a much more precise measurement of the gMax's print bed. Considering it is a 16-inch squared print bed, it's best to get as many checkpoints on the bed as possible so your BL Touch gets the best measurement from your print bed so you can get the best print. So your first layers will be so much better. And of course you can see over there in that right corner there, I do need to clean off the print bed because that's normally where I mount my time-lapse camera, but it'll give this a chance to really check the whole bed, and I'll probably have some really great first layers. And as you can see, it's wrapping up here. And once it finishes up, it'll go over into the corner, the back right-hand corner, the last point it checks, and it'll say on the readout of the gMax printer that the script is finally done. So we'll be able to see it pause there in the back. So that gives you an idea of all the new cool settings in the new Marlin firmware, and gives you the opportunity to see some of the new settings, the way they operate on my gMax printer.
Alright guys, well that about wraps it up for the firmware update on our gMax 1.5 XT Plus. I'm really excited to get started printing again because there's a lot of really cool new features that the guys over at gCreate have added to their particular flavor of Marlin, including those gMax tools. The other thing I'm really excited about is that BL Touch sensor integration into the Marlin firmware. As you saw in the video, we ran our 36-point check of the bed, and we were able to save that setting so we don't have to run that every single time we run a print. Now again, if we unplug the printer, we will have to run that again. But the ability to save that setting so you don't have to have your BL Touch run its typical sensor check of your print bed before every print is a really cool feature update, and I'm really excited about that. And some of those other gMax tools are really cool too. Plus the fact that it's a updated version of Marlin specifically for the gCreate printers, and I think that's very, very cool. And we even ran out a couple of prints after we did our installation and update. And the first thing I did is I ran one out in the new version of Cura, and I ran my standard CaliCat. And we used some of that RepKord's Purple Haze filament. This is some of my favorite filament. I'm saving the last of it because it's really hard to get. But I ran out of CaliCat print, and it turned out really good. And this is with the basic settings in Cura. I didn't do any customization besides adding in the profile for the gMax 1.5 XT Plus. And then I went into Simplify 3D and adjusted my script settings under the script tab, because in the installation of the Marlin firmware update, you have to remove a couple of settings that are in the original script provided by gMax. Now again, this is just for the gMax or the gCreate line of printers. These are only valid for what we're doing with my gMax 1.5 XT Plus. Any settings you may have to change for the latest version of whatever Marlin or whatever firmware you're using for your printer will differ. But the settings that were included from the guys over at gCreate include all the profiles for the printers that you want to use and in the slicing software. So with Cura, there's a new profile for the gMax printers. And of course, I still have my original profile from Simplify 3D, which, like I said, I just made some minor script changes in the script tab to make adjustments for the new Marlin firmware. And honestly, both of these CaliCats turned out really, really good. There's really not much difference between them. There aren't as many perimeters, I believe, with the Cura version, because like I said, I didn't do any customization to my slicing settings. I just used the basic setup, dropped the CaliCat in, saved the file, and printed it, because I wanted to see how the new Marlin firmware worked with any kind of slicing software. And of course, I already had Cura installed, so why not give that a shot first? And then I wanted to run a comparison to Simplify 3D, so I had one of each with the new settings out of Marlin and out of Simplify 3D, plus Cura to make a nice cool comparison. And I'll put some close-ups in at the end, and you guys will be able to see that there are some minor differences between the CaliCat prints, but they are very insignificant. And I think with a little tuning in Cura, I can match my exact settings in Simplify 3D. Now, I mainly use Simplify 3D because that's my favorite slicing software, but there might come a situation where I do have to use Cura, and it's nice to have it in my arsenal of slicing tools just in case. Well, that about wraps it up for today. I hope you guys found this episode interesting and informative, and if you're looking for ways to support the channel, check out the new Patreon link that's down in the description along with the affiliate links. Yes, we are on Patreon now, and your monthly support will go to helping this channel grow, and I really appreciate it. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Comment, like, and share those videos, and I'll talk to you guys soon.